Hi, and welcome everybody to another edition of the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast. I'm Ross Benjamin, joined as always by my cohort, Mr. Chip Chirimbes out of Las Vegas, Nevada. Chip, I hope you had a Merry Christmas and a great weekend.
No, it was a great weekend, a great holiday time, and seeing the family and the children. Christmas is all about the kids. It really is, and it really brought a lot of joy to my heart, to tell you the truth. It could have been a little better Christmas Day, but we did win in the NBA.
There you go. I'm about 5 pounds heavier since the last time I talked to you, but that's a good thing because it's all about Christmas. It's all about the festive spirit, as you said, the kids, and also the good food that
Yeah.
comes with it. So, big slate of bowl games on tap starting tomorrow. We are now taping on Monday, the 28th, as I alluded to. But we're going to take a look at bowl games starting tomorrow, the 29th, right through Saturday, January 2nd. We are going to give you each a free pick at the end of the show. I'd like to thank each and every one of you out there who's been showing your support for these videos. It's deeply appreciated. For those of you who have not subscribed yet, I would ask that you take a second to subscribe and give us a like at the end of these videos. It costs you absolutely nothing to subscribe, folks. It helps keeps these videos alive. And your like, well, that makes us happy because we're trying to make you happy as well. Anything, Chip, that you wanted to add?
No, I'm happy with it too. I just hope that we can provide some winners and be as accurate as we can.
Absolutely. And again, these lines that we give out today are subject to change depending on when you view this video, which will be available all week long on our archives at our YouTube channel. Anyway, Oklahoma State and Miami of Florida, Chipper. This is an Oklahoma State team that really took a swan dive near the end of the year. Their defense was nowhere near what it was early on. Chuba Hubbard will not be playing in this game. He's been pretty much inactive or hurt for the last few games anyway. Miami of Florida coming off a dismantling at the hands of North Carolina. Not so much we were shocked that Miami lost, but it's the manner in which they lost, 62-26. That was a team that went into that game 8-1 and with aspirations in playing in a New Year's Six bowl game. Chipper, right now, Oklahoma State's a 1-point favorite to total 61.
Well, I was kind of taken back that Oklahoma State opened up the favorite. Not only is Hubbard, who had 2,000 yards rushing last year, only 600 this year, though, Rossi, he was injured, like you mentioned, and his replacement has been just as effective. But I was surprised when number 23, the higher-ranked team, was favored over Miami. Miami, I think, was number 18. And yet the game is in Florida. I think it's in Orlando, which you would imagine would give the Hurricanes the edge. Now, Hubbard's being down. He's opting out of this game for Oklahoma State. But Miami is losing their two defensive ends, the two stalwarts, the two bookends of their defense after giving up 62 points and 557 yards rushing. I guess they're too embarrassed to come out on the field, but they are not going to be playing for Miami. And when I first saw this game, Ross, my first instinct was to go with the Hurricanes and to take them. And now I really do have my doubts.
Yeah, well, it opened at 3, came down to 1. The total has gone from 58 to 61. My feeling here is when you get an even matchup like this at bowl time with both teams highly inspired to play because neither finished the year on a high note, and they're going to look to let's finish on a positive note. I think Derek King, the quarterback from Miami, will be the difference maker here in a tight game, which probably will come down to the last team who has the ball. And I will take Miami in that situation. I just think the senior Derek King will be the difference maker in this otherwise even contest, Chipper.
Well, not only is King coming back for this game, but he's coming back next year. He's been granted a 6-year of eligibility.
That's great news.
Yeah, for him. So it's good to see people that actually want to play football and want to play the game, and that was one thing I want to throw in about this Miami team. But, I'm wondering if they were exposed. Were they exposed against this North Carolina? And, Ross, I don't think so, but it has to come in my mind because wouldn't they have been exposed earlier during the year? I mean, this was just, maybe they just weren't ready mentally or physically as well, the way they got overrun by North Carolina.
Yeah, but, I don't think North Carolina's made a lot of teams look bad defensively this year. Let's face it, Chipper. But like you touched upon, the manner in which they lost and the yards they gave up on the ground was the
Right.
most shocking thing. But I think here Oklahoma State does not have anywhere near the offense that North Carolina has.
Yeah.
North Carolina's got two running backs, I think, that are going to play on Sundays in the NFL. And Oklahoma State quarterback Spencer, he doesn't present the same challenges that Sam Howell does for
Yeah,
North
really.
Carolina. So I'm going to have a small lean here on Miami, Florida. Any closing thoughts on this game, Chip?
No, I think we pretty much covered it.
Colorado and Texas. Texas opened as a 13-point favorite. They're now down to 9. Chipper. It opened at 62 and a half, up to 64 and a half. This one is a tough one because to me, Texas is a team that could score on anybody. Colorado, after getting off to that good start, came down to earth a little bit as the season ended. And this is still a heavy number and a big line movement without any substantial, not that I saw anyway, substantial injuries or somebody being on the shelf for
Yeah.
COVID-19. Your thoughts? Do you have anything to add to that? Am I missing something?
Well, probably, Colorado's probably underrated. They're probably the big surprise in the Pac-12.
Right.
Underrated. They start the season with a win over UCLA outright. Close the season with a horrible loss to Utah. We had Utah in that game, and they were pick 'em at home, and they just the second half fell apart. But their coach, I think his name's Carl
Carl
Dorrell.
Durrell, yeah,
Yeah,
former
he's done a
UCLA
great
coach.
job with this team. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I like that. I'm thinking about giving him the edge when you're getting these kind of points because I'm surprised at the way these points are. But this is the fourth straight bowl that Tom Herman has led the Longhorns to, and they've won the previous 3, Ross. So I think the number is high. And to me, you said if you think like a bookmaker, to me it looks kind of inviting to take Colorado, and yet my instinct tells me that the good coaching they have, he's going to bring this team and rally this team and get them together for their final game. The problem here is they are a very young team. The Buffaloes are a very young team. There aren't many seniors on this team. And so, maybe he can't get as sentimental with them as he would with a senior class.
Yeah, and Sam Ellinger, the senior quarterback from Texas, will be playing in his last game as a Longhorn. He's
Right.
put up historic numbers while in Austin, and I look for him to have a big game here. Again, this one's got me baffled. That's a huge line move, and
Yeah.
for no apparent reason other than sharp money or money bet on
Well,
Colorado.
Ross, do you was that 12 and a half, 13? Was that actually a bettable number, or was that a projection of what they felt that where Colorado was coming from and where Texas is coming from?
I'm going by the odds I see at the one source that I use all the
Yeah.
time. It's quite possible. I mean, they had the opening line at 13. I thought I recalled it being a double-digit number.
Yeah, no, I saw
opening.
that.
Okay, so let's cast that aside. Using 9, that's the number we have to beat right
Big,
now.
still
Yeah,
big.
it's still a very healthy number. So it sort of caught my eye and said, "What am I missing here?" Again, Texas has been in some wars this year. They lost in overtime to Oklahoma. They lost they lost a 3-point game at home against TCU. So they're not far off, Chip. And one
Yeah.
thing that I can say with Tom Herman, his job was supposedly in jeopardy because Texas has so vastly underachieved over the last few years by their standards. They wanted, when they brought Tom Herman aboard, Chip,
Yeah.
they were expecting them to return to national prominence. That means at least playing on a New Year's Six bowl game or contending for a national championship, and neither has occurred. They decided to keep Herman for another year, and I think that brings a little bit of stability to the
Yes.
situation for Texas going into a bowl game, don't you?
Yeah, and they could have won 2 of those games. They got defeated, and he closed strong, winning 4 or 5. This offense is prolific the way he has them, and I think and we have to think of where he started if you really want to, because when I think Strong was there when Herman came in and took over, and it took a while. This is, I think, the most representative years of, say, Hook 'em Horn Longhorn fans, Texas fans. I'm looking for big things out of him in the future. We know what he did at Houston. We'll see if he can do it, and we'd love to see Texas be prominent, like the Dallas Cowboys or, the Red Sox and the Yankees. It just makes everything else more interesting. So, this is a big number, though. It's
Yes,
a big
it
number.
is. It really is. It makes you hesitate.
It does.
I certainly wasn't standing in line to take the underdog here either. So
Yeah.
tough call here. Maybe the play might be going over the total because these are two teams that can score, not known for their defense. So we'll see. You bring up a good point. I hate to get off track here, but you brought up the point with Derek King getting a 6-year eligibility. Well, the
Yeah.
NCAA did say they were going to extend a year of eligibility to anybody who went through this
Right.
COVID-19 crisis.
Right.
And I wish more kids take advantage of that. It would just, it's too many
They don't-
times we see these
They
kids.
don't
leave
realize how
early.
good they have it there.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm being a little selfish. It would add to the quality of the college football we
Sure.
see next year.
Yeah.
And the players in which we see. So anytime you could add that year of eligibility, especially for a kid that may have been just on the fence of being a draft pick or not, he has a year under his belt to improve his status in that regard. And also the kids that aren't going to be NFL players, that are very good college players, but are never going to make it in the NFL. It gives them
doesn't hurt
another
your brain.
year.
And it doesn't hurt your brand for when you graduate. You're a high profile person. Now
Exactly.
there's a big corporation that recognizes the name and they'll have a spot for you or provide a spot for you, So
Yeah.
I don't think it hurts. I don't think it hurts at all.
Absolutely. Anyway, let's get to the next game, which is the Cotton Bowl being played in Arlington, Texas. And that takes place on December 30th, which is Wednesday, 2 days from now, Chipper. An extremely good matchup. The Big 12 champion Oklahoma Sooners against the SEC runner-ups, the Florida Gators. Right now, it's Florida. It's a 2.5-point favorite in this game. This total did open at 69. It's up to 71.5. And it's justified because I can't see either of these defenses stopping either of these offenses.
Absolutely. And, Trask has gotten all the accolades and all the Heisman hype for Florida. And if you look and compare, the quarterback for Oklahoma, his name escapes me right now, but
Spencer Ratliff.
Rattler, right?
Ratliff.
R-A-D-D, I think.
Ratliff.
His stats are very comparable to Trask. I mean, yardage-wise, and Oklahoma had that, little faux pas. They blew that 21-point lead, I believe it was, at Kansas State. And I was very surprised, not very surprised, but I sort of became concerned to look at it when I saw that Florida opened the favorite. At first I'm saying, okay, and yet Oklahoma, I think, might be the higher-ranked team after the way Florida blew to LSU. But it's negligible, Ross, because this game is going to go off virtually a pick 'em anyway. You got the winner in this game. You got the winner. So
absolutely,
I think it's a really tough call. And I think what you said about the offenses being so prolific, and not only that, but neither of these teams has a great defense. So I can see plenty of points being scored in this one. This one could be just up and down the field with two quarterbacks showing their wares. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, and look, here's the thing. You look at this game and you look at the point spread. It jumped right out at me, as you said, Chipper. I thought Oklahoma would open as a favorite. You got a big Power 5 conference team that won their conference championship against a team that was the runner-up, and the conference champion is the underdog. So again, we could look at it from that angle too.
Ross, how's the money coming on this game? What's the public doing with this game as far as the bets? Percentage of bets.
I'd have to check on that real quickly, and give me just.
Do you think there's a little more Florida action?
Well, I could tell you specifically what I'm seeing is 42% of the volume of bets is on Florida, and only 36% of the money.
So most of it's coming the other way on Oklahoma, as we both thought initially when we saw that line. I mean, I was a little taken back that Florida came up the favorite, and so were you. You just mentioned it.
Yeah. And double check that line again, because they got Florida as let me see here. What do you have as a line on that game, Chip? I got Florida at -2.5, unless I'm mistaken.
Did it move up? Okay,
no,
I have to put on my glasses now. My vanity and frailty is right in front of you.
Oklahoma is a 3-point favorite in this game. I take that back. So
Oklahoma is now a 3-point favorite.
Now a 3-point favorite in that game. So it opened up with Florida being a 3.5-point favorite. It's now Oklahoma at 3, and a lot of money going Oklahoma's way.
Oh, I see it. You're right. I see it. I see it opening 2.5 Florida, and now
when I saw 2.5, I said, well, I never surmised that it would go from -3.5 for Florida to +2.5 for Florida. But
Well, that has to make me take a look at Florida. No, I mean,
absolutely, absolutely, I would take a long, hard look at Florida
yeah,
here. So, and again, the SEC is not what it was in years past. So we can no longer go by, well, they played in a tougher conference, because
yeah,
I'm not
no,
so sure that's the case this year.
not. I'm sure it's not the case.
Yeah. So again, another tough call in a game that I'm not willing to take a stab at just yet. But I'm certainly going to have a play in this game. Wisconsin and Wake Forest. This
Ugh.
is interesting. Again, the Badgers, a 7.5 point favorite right now, Chipper. This game goes also on Wednesday. It's a noon Eastern time kickoff, and chance to get your day started in a profitable manner. This is a Wisconsin team that scored 7 points or less in each of their last 3 games. I get it, against Big Ten competition, but Wake Forest, if they can do anything, they could score. Now, Wisconsin's defense is top notch. We know that. I would just be hard. It'd be hard for me, Chip, at this point to lay points with Wisconsin against any team with a winning record in college football right now.
You know, Wisconsin. I just I can't do it. I can't do it. You said it's going to start the day with this game. I think the best thing that I can possibly do would be oversleep and miss this game. Because
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know me in Wisconsin now, I don't even want anything to do with them on the basketball court because of what they've done to us this year on the
Well, they're
football
playing
field.
tonight. You might. You
How
don't
do they
know.
come up this number though? I mean, every game we're seeing
I
Wisconsin come up as this false favorite. Is because they beat an absolutely horrid Illinois team, 49-3, and now we have to pay for it the rest of the year. I mean, this is ridiculous. The kind of lines they've been 11-point favorites over Minnesota. I mean, double digits everywhere, and they're lucky if they win the game, much less
Yeah.
score double digits.
I take that back. They did score 20 in their last game, a 20-17 home win against Minnesota. Prior to that, they had
And they were
scored
favored by what?
10.5.
All right.
And I believe that game went overtime, if I'm not mistaken, too.
Yeah, it did. It did.
Yeah. So, I mean, they barely got by that game. They lose to Iowa 28-7, Indiana 14-6, and Northwestern 17-6. I guess you could make the case those 3 teams are all nationally ranked. Again, they face some pretty stiff competition.
But
And, this is a Wake Forest team that, like I said, can score, but they have trouble stopping people. Chipper, their last 2 games against North Carolina and Louisville, they lose 59-53 and 45-21.
And isn't Wisconsin having some quarterback problems? Didn't they make a change? I mean, Cohen is now their quarterback, and
Yeah,
their original.
because the true freshman who started out so red hot in the opener
Yeah,
never came close to even matching that type of performance going forward. And Cohen was the existing starter from last year. So,
yeah.
senior quarterback, I believe, and we'll see. Maybe
Okay.
that'll make a difference. But I could see, I guess, when looking inside these numbers, why Wisconsin is the favorite in this game. They've unequivocally played the tougher schedule of these 2 schools. So, again, go ahead, Chip.
I was saying sometimes you're supposed to beat some of these schools, these good teams you're playing, and one of my ex-partners say all the time, numbers never lie, but they
Yeah.
can be very misleading, and that's how it
Numbers.
is with this Wisconsin team.
Yeah, my always
You know?
thing is numbers don't lie and liars don't figure. So
Yeah.
a little bit of an opposite approach there. But having said that, I mentioned this last week, Chipper. It's a lot of times when it's bowl games of very little significance, which this one is. Teams that really haven't had a great year. I mean, Wake Forest 4-4, Wisconsin 3-3. So records. It's a matter of what team is more interested in being there.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know, you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? I mean,
Absolutely.
I would think that Wisconsin had much higher aspirations than playing Wake Forest in the Bank
Oh,
of America Bowl in Charlotte on December 30th.
I agree.
So
I agree. It has to be a major disappointment for them this year.
absolutely. So something to keep in mind. Another interesting matchup, because we discussed these teams this year. Teams were eligible to make the playoffs, or bowl games, even with a losing record. In years past, they had to have a 500 or better record to qualify. They waived that this year because of COVID-19. And here we have Mississippi State 3-7, taking on Tulsa, 6-2, who lost to number 8 Cincinnati in a very close game in the AAC title game. Actually, number 6 Cincinnati lost by 3. Yet here we have the 3-7 Mississippi State Bulldogs are only a 2.5-point underdog in this game against the 6-2 Tulsa Golden Hurricane. Again, we're going to go Power 5 team versus non-Power 5, but the American Athletic Conference is a pretty good conference, Chip. It has been for a while now. What's your thoughts, sir?
This is one of my 3 go figure games. When you just look at it, it doesn't pass the eye test and it doesn't pass the smell test either. This game, to me, it sticks out like a sore thumb. 3-7, is that what Mississippi State was? And
3-7, yes. They won.
And we thought they were going to be good because they opened the season with a big win over LSU. Little did we know that LSU can't play football this year. And now this is an outrageous number. I'd only have one way to go. I bet on the Bulldogs. I would bet Mississippi State, and I would expect something really freaky to happen.
Yeah. Mississippi State has played good defense, with all being considered, because sometimes their offense put them in unenviable situations, either not being able to sustain drives. And as you know, they played at phonetic pace with Mike Leach as their head coach now.
Didn't they have Costello from Stanford start that first game?
Costello from Stanford started the year, threw for over 600 yards against LSU, and then just laid an egg the rest of the way. Now,
he's got 700 on the season now.
Yeah, it's something like that. Anyway, the true freshman has been starting of late, and he passed for 295 yards last week in a win or 2 weeks ago in the 51-32 win over Missouri. Passed for 440 against Ole Miss. So the quarterback change has helped Mississippi State. And like I touched upon, their defense, Chip, is a lot better than a 3-7 team. So something to keep in mind. You may want to even take a look at the under in this matchup. I'm not sure what the numbers show as far as the betting trends go, but Tulsa is a very good defense, in Mississippi State, especially against not a high octane offense like Tulsa, might fit like a glove for them.
And don't you sort of think that Tulsa the Golden Hurricane have to feel they've already played their bowl game. They played in a conference championship game. They played one of the best teams in the country, Cincinnati, and went tooth and nail with them the whole game. Maybe they just have nothing left psychologically. Maybe they just were totally spent and left it out on the field in that ball game. And I think that's maybe why this odds, and this is so low, why the odds maker has made it where it is.
Yeah, it's certainly. When you see that, you want to, because you know that they're begging you to take Tulsa here, and a lot of people, I'm not saying they're not the right side, but I would say there's a good portion of the people out there that don't take the time that we take or don't have the experience that we have, look at this line and think Tulsa's an absolute steal in this matchup.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I'm sure we'll see ample amount of money being bet on Tulsa here. I wouldn't be. All
that Oklahoma oil money is going to be coming in.
Yeah, exactly. Ball State, the champions of the MAC, taking on undefeated San Jose State. Now, this is an intriguing matchup. San Jose State won the Mountain West Conference, win the conference championship game over perennial power Boise State. All of a sudden, we're looking at break up the Spartans dynasty as they're 7-0 this year. And Ball State, after losing their season opening game, they reeled off 6 in a row, Chipper, including that win against Buffalo in the MAC championship game, a game they were a double-digit underdog. They've covered their last 4 as well. And both of these teams have been money teams, actually. Yeah. San Jose State, 7-0 straight up. 6-0-1 against the spread, Chip, and they're only allowing a little under 18 points per game this year.
Well, Ball State really shut down Buffalo, and I really wasn't, and I was very impressed with that. And they beat an undefeated Buffalo team, and I'm thinking, well, why can't they beat an undefeated San Jose team? No one, I think, has given the Cardinals any kind of credence or respect at all. No one gave them a chance against the Bulls in that game against Buffalo. I'm really not that high on this game, but I'm just throwing this to you off the cuff when I'm looking at it. I think that the action is going to come on the undefeated Spartans, who certainly have earned this position. Ross, we saw them a couple of times this year, and I know we were both impressed with their play. So I think it's a tough call, but I think it would probably come down to be a lot closer than most people think. Basically, because I don't know if anyone gives Ball State any kind of respect whatsoever.
No, anytime you're going to get an undefeated team in the bowl season, and let's not forget, they're only 7-0. I'm not making light of the record, but teams ordinarily go into a bowl game after a championship, conference championship game
Yeah.
with at least 13 games under their belt. So, but anytime you're going to get an undefeated team in bowl season against a MAC team, and I don't know how many times that's occurred. I'm going to say if it has occurred, it was very rare. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of public money to go the way of San Jose State. Very underrated defensive team, though, Chipper. Something to keep an
Yes.
eye on. And Ball State, over their last 4 games, they have a plus 4, 6, 7 turnover differential. So that might be something that keeps Ball State in the game as well. You did mention the game against Buffalo. Buffalo still had 499 yards in that game. The shocking
Really?
thing was, yes, the shocking thing is they held Buffalo to 134 yards rushing with
That's
those
what it
two
was.
the top running
Yeah.
backs, and
Yeah.
not in Patterson especially had a terrible game. So they forced them out of their comfort zone. Is I guess where I'm
For
going with
sure.
this.
Yeah.
West Virginia and Army. Now West Virginia again. These games, the Mississippi State Tulsa game, Ball State San Jose State. These games Thursday, New Year's Eve, the 31st of December, and this one as well. West Virginia and Army. Chipper, initially West Virginia was scheduled to play Tennessee in this
Yeah.
game, which is the Liberty Memorial Bowl game. The Liberty Bowl, excuse me, at
Right.
Memorial Stadium in Memphis, Tennessee. Now they're playing Army. And boy, oh boy, you get a short notice that you're not playing Tennessee, you're playing Army. So now you're not playing against a team with the brand that Tennessee has, even though Army's a better team in my estimation. A cadet team that's coming off back-to-back wins against Navy and Air Force, both service academies. And now they're going to play a West Virginia team from the Big 12. And I just don't know how ready West Virginia is going to be physically and mentally to play this game. And let's not forget, Chipper, we've said this a million times over the course of the year. This is a West Virginia team that went 5-0 in Morgantown this year, but 0-4 in games played away from Morgantown. So we'll see what happens here. Army is 9-2. Their only losses coming at the hands of Tulane, and also a 14-point loss against number 6 Cincinnati early in the year. So they've had a stellar campaign. You definitely have to give a wide edge to West Virginia in terms of strength of schedule. Chip, have any thoughts here?
Yeah, this Army team's tough. We saw them opening week against Cincinnati, and we had the Bearcats were very lucky to cover that game. But Army really, the cadets showed us something. I saw how tough they were, particularly on defense. My thoughts are here, Ross, is that we had they played Navy and Air Force back to back.
Yeah.
They shut down Navy completely, and then we, in my great wisdom, I said, well, they've already played their big game against Navy. How are they going to get up to play the Air Force? And they just shut the Air Force down completely.
Yeah.
So their defense is stellar. Their defense is credible. Are they going to be ready for this one? They're a strong underdog here. And, usually the service academies, Ross, do so well in the bowl games. And I'm giving a large number of points here. I'm kind of surprised because, like you said, once you get the Mountaineers out of Morgantown, they're a totally different team, completely. Yeah. If they were 7.5 at home against Army, I would say that's a right number. Now we're talking about a neutral site. It's the bookmakers making me. It seems like it's a lot easier to take Army in this game than it is West Virginia.
Certainly seems so. And, here's the thing with West Virginia, too. Okay. They go from facing all these spread offenses in the Big 12 to you got a week to prepare for a triple option offense. And not only a triple option offense, but one that runs as efficiently as Army has and has done so for years now. I mean, it's not like anything new, but that is a tough ask, isn't it, Chip? when you have a team that's a good defensive team like West Virginia, there's no two ways about it. But now you're asking them to defend almost the polar opposite of what you've been facing all year long.
Yeah. Some teams they just can't make the adjustment. And that's why, even though maybe the academies don't have the talent as these other schools, though, they're well coached, they're disciplined, and they know their system.
Yeah. And Army, by the way, allows 14 points per game this year in their 9-2 record. Again, they played a lot lesser competition. Yes. But we talked about West Virginia away from Morgantown, Chip. In those 4 games away from Morgantown, they only averaged 14.8 points per game. So something to keep in consideration.
Maybe, Ross, maybe the under is the way to go with this game because we know West Virginia can play defense.
Yeah, but a lot of money has come in on the under. So we're not the only one who's thinking in those lines.
Yeah.
You're also looking at a total that opened at 43 is down to 41.5.
Wow, it's low.
That's low by college football standards.
Very.
It's low by NFL standards these days as well. But anyway, should provide for a little bit of intrigue because it would seem like two teams that are contrasting styles. And that always makes for fun when it comes to bowl season. Arkansas and TCU. TCU opened as a 6-point favorite. No, 5.5-point favorite. They're down to 4.5. The total in this game went from 58 to 56.5. I don't know, Chip. Two teams that you are another Arkansas 3-7, and TCU 6-4. So Arkansas comes into this on a 4-game losing streak. And then TCU comes in on a 3-game winning streak. What's your thoughts?
But my thoughts are blah. When you look at it, usually you look at a game, Ross, and you get some kind of feel one way or another. You put a little check mark or a circle, or I looked at this game and got nothing out of it, nothing. And TCU has been good to us. I think Arkansas, we've avoided for the most part this year. They finally busted into the win column after like Rutgers in the Big Ten basketball or football. But I really don't have too much on this. I'd have to do a lot more research. It's too far down the line right now with all these other big games coming up. Right on top of us. And I have to admit, I really haven't done as much work and research on this game yet.
Yeah, TCU, that 3-game winning streak, they put up 59, 29, and 52 points. Arkansas in their 4-game losing streak has allowed 63, 27, 50, and 52 points. So it would seem that TCU's offense should have an easy time moving the ball on this Arkansas defense. And I would think that TCU has the edge defensively. Again, one of those disparity of records games, Chipper.
I have a hard time getting past the Horned Frogs because of that performance they had at West Virginia, where this prolific offense scored like 3 points. I thought they were in a great spot, and we would finally see West Virginia stumble at home. And boy, was I out of line and wrong on that one. But that's a day in the life of this business. And that, that sticks with you though. When you get beat so badly and you read a team so wrong, it's sort of like, I don't want to get caught in the trap with them again, or do they owe me? Am I chasing them just because I lost with them before? And, this is what we have to go through. Yeah. We're looking at the game and the numbers aren't just the numbers. Now our brains are playing tricks on us as we're saying, so it's a tough call for me in this game. I'm going to just sit and wait and see if something surfaces maybe 24 hours before game time.
Yeah. And similar to what you said about Mississippi State, they're not the favorite Arkansas, but they're a 3-7 team.
Yeah.
And these are two teams from power conferences. Okay. Power 5 conferences. And the 6-4 team is only a 4.5-point favorite over the 3-7 team. So again, games being played in Houston. So the destination isn't going to be a factor. I know it's in TCU's home state, but Arkansas not too far away from Houston. No. And, I don't know, Chip, might come down to who wants to be there more.
I was just going to say, what is their team's outlook to this game? Is Arkansas so happy to be in a bowl game because they haven't smelled a 500 season in years? And is TCU going through the doldrums like, okay, we got to finish the season here. 2 days later, 48 hours later, we were going to celebrate New Year. So you don't know all the time. You really don't. Sometimes we get a good read on it. But in these days and times with the COVID and everything else, I think our information is a little bit skewed, and we don't quite had the edge we had in the past.
If I was to take an educated guess, I think Arkansas is going to be more ready to play here.
Yeah.
Just based on the fact that if you would have told the new coaching staff at Arkansas before the season began that your team is going to play in a bowl game this year, they would have said, "Where do I sign up for that?"
Yeah.
Then you got a TCU team that's 6-4. The program has had their fair share of success over the last decade, but how excited could they be to go to a bowl game and take on a 3-7 team? So again, it's not an exact science, but sometimes when you get to these matchups and you see lines to make you scratch your head, that's something you got to keep in mind as well.
Right.
Let's go to January 1st, Chipper. Cincinnati and Georgia. You know how I feel here. I think this is a prime spot for Cincinnati to show their wares. I know that Georgia on paper is the more talented team, two very good defenses. And as we speak right now, we're looking at Georgia opening as a 7.5-point favorite. They're down to 7. The total right now is 50.5. I don't know, Chip. I like the team that's coming from the group of 6 representative here, undefeated, and taking on Georgia.
Well, there's a couple of things that when I first saw this game, my first impression is good. We're going to have Cincinnati in a great spot. This is the matchup I wanted because all season long we've been saying that Cincinnati is better than Georgia, and now they're going to get a chance to prove it. But you know what? The pollsters say that Cincinnati's better. They're ranked higher. They've got an undefeated record, and yet they're an underdog according to the odds makers. So I had to pull my reins back a little bit here. And I know that Cincinnati's getting a lot of support from the professionals, from the sports services, and from the wise guys yet. I think that Cincinnati is going to be a heavy play for the professionals, where the public most likely is going to gravitate toward Georgia. But you know what, Ross, as well? I think there's going to be enough public money on Cincinnati to make this one a coin toss.
Yeah, I'm looking at right now just 47% of the volume of bets, and only just 11% of the money has gone on Cincinnati. Yet this line has gone from 7.5 to 7. So that makes me like Cincinnati even more.
Yeah, well,
and
okay.
Go ahead, Chip.
No, I wasn't aware that the low percentage of money. I knew the percentage of overall bets was at one level, but when you're giving me the percentage of money, dollars, I can see. I'd be happy to take Cincinnati.
Yeah. And again, it's still early in the process. Yeah, we're recording on Monday. The game won't be played until January 1st, which is Saturday. It'll be the opening. Yeah, it'll be the opening game on the New Year's Day board. Kicks off at 12:30 p.m. Eastern time. The game's being played in Atlanta. I guess you can give a little edge to Georgia in that regard, especially since they travel well. And the other factor I would say is Georgia playing in the SEC compared to Cincinnati in the AAC. And Cincinnati, their schedule left a lot to be desired, Chipper. I mean, they beat Tulsa, which we just discussed, Central Florida, who can't stop anybody, and really no signature wins there. And Georgia, their only 2 losses come to Alabama and Florida. They were dominated in both of those games.
Well,
go ahead, Chip.
I was going to say, isn't it why Dabo Swinney kept Ohio State out of the top 10? He says they didn't have a big enough resume. They didn't play enough games. They didn't put where's their signature win? Yeah. So I understand where you're coming from with this.
Yeah. So again, I'm going to have a small lean towards Cincinnati plus the points here at this particular juncture. Here's a game I know that interests you, Chipper, and we talked about this before we came on air. The Auburn Tigers, and that's the 6-4 Auburn Tigers against the 6-2 Northwestern Wildcats, who gave Ohio State all they can handle for about 3 quarters in the Big Ten championship game. Again, this is a Northwestern team right now, Chipper, that finds themselves as a 3.5-point favorite in this contest. 43.5 is the total. Again, I just wonder where Northwestern is going to get their points from, especially against an SEC opponent. I know Auburn, this wasn't their atypical defense, but again, Northwestern, to me, I cringe when I watch them offensively.
Well, you know, we faded this Auburn team most of the season and did very well playing against them. And they came into their final game, Mississippi State, and I told you at the beginning of the week they were 7.5-point favorites. I said, I'm on Auburn. And then by the time the end of the week came, I got off on my pass and they went out and won easy. Now, are they playing better football? Are they stronger? Have they played better football? The fact that it's only 3.5, I think it's very, very easy to take a Northwestern team that fought hard against Ohio State, that beat Wisconsin, whereas Auburn here got annihilated by Alabama. We haven't seen any impressive wins for them. Any teams they beat in the SEC were from the lower echelon. It makes me think that Auburn has more than a puncher's chance in this game here. We know that the Wildcats aren't a big scoring offensive machine. So if it's a tight defensive game, it may be ended by a field goal just straight up between, put them in the dark alley, let them play.
Here's an interesting tidbit. This year, Northwestern has gone 7-1 to the under, while the Auburn Tigers have gone 6-2, 8-2 to the under. So both teams have played to the under this year, but buyer beware, because this total opened at 46. It's down to 43.5. A ton of money coming in on the under, Chipper. So the bookmakers were fully prepared for this, and apparently the bettors are seeing the same thing that I'm looking at as well. All right, next game we go to is if we get to the college football playoff games. Let's save those for last. Okay?
Yeah, let's say, and we can mention that later on in the week as well.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, if you join us on Thursday, we'll be talking about the two college football playoff matchups on Saturday between Notre Dame and Alabama, and Ohio State and Clemson. And again, right now, Alabama is a 20-point favorite over Notre Dame, and Clemson a 7.5-point favorite over Ohio State. Let's go to Saturday, January 2nd, Chip. I know this one interests you as well. We have a Kentucky team, I think you told me was 2-7. I'll double check that, but I'm sure you're right. No, Kentucky is 4-6, and they're playing an 8-3 NC State team. Yet the 4-6 team is a 2.5-point favorite in this contest. What's up with that, Chipper?
Well, do you want me to give my free play on the show right now or save it to the end?
Save it to the end. So
okay, I'll save it to the end, but it seems kind of strange that a ranked team with a winning record is an underdog to a team with a losing record. They can't score points. They have to steal points. Yeah. I mean, this offense for the Wildcats is one of the worst in the NCAA football, and we're just going to have to wait and see and how this plays out.
Yeah, 5 games away from Lexington, Kentucky this year. They averaged 14 points and 244 yards per game. So, terrible. I mean, anemic offensively. Their defense has been very good at times, but they did not close the season very well. In their last 3 games, they gave up over 38 points and 443 yards per game. So, in any event, we'll get to that with Chipper's free play. Let's go on to the next game, Ole Miss and Indiana. Now, this is a very interesting game, to say the least, because we have Indiana here, 6-1. Indiana is a 6.5-point favorite right now. And Indiana, yes, 6.5-point favorite. Right. And the total in this game is 66.5. Indiana comes in at 6-1. Ole Miss at 4-5, Chipper. Yet it's the team with the losing record. It's less than a touchdown underdog in this contest.
I think the total is the way to go here, because I'm afraid that the Hoosiers may come out flat, and yet I have so much regard for their coach. I think he'll have them prepared. So, you're looking one way, turn your head. It's kind of a paradox for me, but both these teams love to score points, and both of them give up points. I can see this game going over the total readily.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Ole Miss this year, they've, to Chipper's point, they put up 35 on Florida, 42 on Kentucky, 48 against Alabama, 54 at Vanderbilt, 59 against South Carolina, 48 at LSU. So, yeah, I think they could score. On the flip side of that, they've given up 51, 41, 63, 35, 42, 53 points, Chipper. So, and Auburn, again, I don't know, Bo Nix at quarterback. This might be a game that Bo Nix does well, because
we're talking about the Mississippi game going over.
Yep.
Nix is with that Auburn crew. So I think it goes over easy. I really do.
Yeah, Indiana. What I was going to say, Chip, is this is a game that Bo Nix. Excuse me, I'm thinking of Bo Nix from Auburn. You're right. But this is a game that Indiana, even with their backup quarterback, should be able to score plenty in this
Sure.
contest. So again, looks like an overplay, but buyer beware because this line opened at 67 down to 66 and a half. So not a lot of
Hey,
movement there.
if you keep dealing with me, you'll be. So don't worry.
What, say that again, Chip? You cut out on me.
I said, if you keep sticking around with me, you're going to transpose hockey players into baseball players like I do with all these different guys.
Anyway, Oregon and Ohio and Iowa State, excuse me, Iowa State, the runner-up in the Big 12, losing that close game in the title game against Oklahoma, coming off a banner year. The program has exceeded where they've been in the past, making it to their first Big 12 championship game ever, high ranking. Oregon, who is a substitute for Washington in a Pac-12 championship game, filled in pretty admirably as they knocked off USC in that Pac-12 title game. Iowa State, 4.5-point favorite, to total 57.5 in this contest.
I was a little surprised the Cyclones were as strong as favorite as they were. Oregon has a great history and a little pedigree. Of course, the Pac-12 wasn't what it has been. They played 6 games the whole year. I think they were 4-2. I mean, they could have earned their way to the title game in the Pac-12 if they had played a full season, as it was. It makes me think that the Ducks, who I usually like in this type of situation, may be in a little bit of trouble. I think the Cyclones it's a very strong number. And, I remember week 1 when you said that you had, I think it was Louisiana Tech or someone against Iowa State, and you were telling me how good Iowa State was, and you gave out a 13-point underdog that won outright, I might add. And then you were right about the team all along. They make it to the Big 12 championship game, and now they're favored in this bowl game. And I think the fact that they're favored actually makes them the side.
Yeah, that Louisiana Lafayette game, like you alluded to in the season opener, let's not forget Louisiana Lafayette's not bad, Chipper.
Oh no, I wouldn't say, but I mean, you were on it, is what I meant.
I appreciate that.
And you were telling me that Iowa State's a good team, and yet you were willing to go against them, and they were such a huge favorite, and they still got upset, and you stuck with them through the season. And I know we had them in a couple of crucial spots, and they came through for us.
Yeah, that game ended up 31-14, but UL Lafayette only had 272 yards of total offense, something we both like looking at to see how a team won a game or lost a game. And they were victim of 2 kick returns for touchdown, a punt return, a kickoff return. Having said that, I mean, the point I made with UL Lafayette is a lot of people would say that's a bad loss who haven't followed college football all year, but that's a UL Lafayette team that is ranked number 19 in the country. They also lost at Oklahoma State by 3. And that was a game that Chuba Hubbard was healthy. And when Oklahoma State was undefeated, I believe at the time. And then they lost, like I just touched upon, to Oklahoma 27-21 in the Big 12 championship game. The only thing I could say, you look at Iowa State's resume, losses to UL Lafayette, Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma. Really no bad losses in there, I would say. There's no losses, a good loss, Chip, but they didn't really lose any slouches, whereas Oregon gets knocked off by Oregon State as a 13-point favorite and California as a 9.5-point favorite. So if I was to give an edge in that department, I would say that Iowa State has had the better season, but we'll see. It's a matter of who's in the mood to be there in this particular game. I got to say, Iowa State's going to be stoked, right? I mean, I know they just lost the Big 12 title game, Chipper, but it's not like this is a football program that's used to being in a situation.
I always like taking the team that lost the title game against a team that won the title game. So that in itself, and you had a team that lost being favored, I'm leaning toward the Cyclones right now.
And I tend to agree with you. The final game, the North Carolina Tar Heels on the cusp of, or I should say on the heels of a 62-26 season-ending win over a top 10 team in Miami, takes on the Texas A&M Aggies, the number 5 team in the country. Jimbo Fisher stated his case. He thought they were good enough to be there. They got snubbed. Chipper, it doesn't matter to me if it's college football or college basketball. I see this happen a lot in college basketball where a team gets snubbed for the NCAA tournament, goes in the NIT, and they lay an egg. And it's happened in college football too, where a team had, they finished badly after having a tremendous year, playing a lower scale bowl game, and then lay an egg. I'm not saying this is a lower scale bowl game because it's the Orange Bowl, but I like to fade teams that have been snubbed, that
Well,
were hoping to be elsewhere beside where they are at this
I'm
particular
wondering
time of year.
how disappointed could they have been, Ross, because they were never in the top tier. They were always
Yeah.
on the outside looking in. So maybe their expectations weren't as high as somebody that was there and got bounced out. But I understand exactly what you're saying. This team, they were underachievers early in the year, A&M, and we know they got hurt by Alabama. But I have to give them credit because they did come on, and they came on in the second half, and they proved their worth. I mean, but they are where they belong. They are not in the top four in my mind, and maybe they're going to look to go out and make a statement here. It's a pretty tough call right now because I think that A&M is so underrated in the public's eye. I don't think the public has given them the credit they actually deserve and the kind of season that they've had, but yet they only have to win this game by one for me to be swearing at them.
Yeah. I will say this: they're going to be facing, beside Alabama. Okay, cast them aside. This is going to be their toughest task defensively of the season. Playing a North Carolina team that's averaging 43 points and 556 yards per game. And let's not forget, they're coming off that game against Miami in which they rushed for 554 yards and put up 778 yards of total offense. Who saw that coming? Boy, oh boy. Texas A&M, very good defensively, Chipper. Other than that Alabama game, they've been pretty much stout defensively. You look at their last four games, they've given up 13, 27, and 3 points. So, I mean, they're getting it done defensively. I'm just not sure about this offense when they step up in class.
Well,
I saw them struggle in that game against LSU at home, and LSU is by no stretch of the imagination is a good defense. They struggled on a couple other occasions this year as well. A game against Vanderbilt. So, what's your thoughts here?
I think the A&M, the Aggie defense is going to have to come to play.
Yeah.
And I think that the last couple of games, I thought the running game had improved. I was there, and as long as their quarterback can control the ball and not give up any foolish turnovers, I still think that they're probably going to be the side here. And North Carolina's good. They scored 62 points their last game. I probably want to fade them this time out. And A&M at the end of the year wants to be able to pound their chest and say, "See, I told you so." So
yeah, North Carolina scored 41 points or greater in 6 of their last 7 games, Chipper. The only exception to that rule was the game against Notre Dame. They lost 31-17. So this is a team that could definitely score. I'm just not so sure they're going to be able to stop Texas A&M or get enough stops against an A&M team that they're not great offensively, but look, I mean, you're talking about a North Carolina team that allowed 53 against Wake Forest, 44 against Virginia, 45 against Virginia Tech. So you could score on North Carolina. I think Texas A&M will be able to do so, and they're the defense more capable of getting stops at crucial times. So that might be the edge in that game, Chipper. Anyway, what about your free play, Chip?
Well, I'm going to have to go to that anomaly that we saw. We have a team that's unranked, under 500, and they're favored over a ranked team. And I'm talking about Kentucky, who has one of the more abysmal offenses. And you know what? If you don't watch this game because you're going to get sick. I mean, you won't, because we can lose this game 51-0. But the idea that Kentucky is favored with a record under 500 against NC State, who's ranked number 23 and has got a winning record, and NC State hasn't been a slouch all year. Maybe there's something going on we don't know about. They got magnets in the football, or the referees are going out there with 3 blind mice. I don't know, Ross, but I got Kentucky. And if they don't win, I'll be surprised.
I'm going to take the Cincinnati Bearcats, as I alluded to earlier. I'm going to take them as my free pick. That game goes on January 1st, this coming Saturday. It goes at 12:30 p.m. Eastern time. Cincinnati, again, a lot to play for. Group of 5 representative, undefeated, playing a national power like Georgia with a big brand name. Again, I don't know how stoked Georgia is going to be to play this game. They had much higher aspirations before the season began. They did lose twice and twice handily to the two teams they needed to step up against, one of them being Alabama. I'm going to say that Cincinnati, if they don't win this game outright, it's going to keep it competitive throughout. And this game goes right down to the wire. I wouldn't be shocked to get the outright upset here,
No.
Chipper, but I will take the points as an additional bonus. I'm going to take the Cincinnati Bearcats plus the 7 over Georgia on Saturday, January 1st in the Camping World Stadium Bowl played in Orlando. And Chip Chirimbes is going to take the December 31st game between the Mississippi State Bulldogs and the Tulsa Golden Hurricanes. He's going to take Mississippi State, you said, correct, Chip?
No, well, the game I wanted to take the free play was Kentucky.
I think that. I'm sorry.
Or NC State, but I wouldn't mind taking that Mississippi State side against Tulsa either. So,
all right. Anyway, repeating again, Chipper's taking Kentucky plus the 2.5 over NC State in the Gator Bowl on January 2nd. That is next Saturday. And I have the Friday, January 1st game with Cincinnati plus 7 against Georgia. Chipper, what do you got going on this week at chipwins.com?
well, it's pretty much the picture of consistency. I look to post a top play in each sport and a 3-pack of best bets. So you can come in and get either just a single best bet game or a 3-pack for college basketball, which I'm doing very well with, and the NBA got off to a great start. And we've had a fabulous run in football this season, particularly on Saturdays. So each and every day you can log on to chipwins.com and you can buy it for the week, month, or daily basis. And you can even give me a call and we can work out some personal VIP deals.
And you could find me at rbwins.com. Folks, I'm coming off a weekend in which I went 7-3, 4-1 on Saturday, 3-2 on Sunday. That's combined NFL, college football, college basketball, and the NBA. That's rbwins.com. You could buy weekly, monthly, or annual packages there. I guarantee my subscription plans, if you don't make a profit at the end of the subscription, I will extend your package until you do. My daily picks are up there as well. That's rbwins.com. And once again, you can find Chipper at chipwins.com. Until the next time, which is tomorrow, I like to wish each and every one of you all the very best. And for Chip Chirimbes and Ross Benjamin, good luck and God bless.